So the mental health impact of overworking employees in the United States about depression in the workplace. So first we have the research question, which is what actions should employers and the US government take in order to treat and prevent workplace depression? Now, of course, first of all, we want to know, how is this prevalent? Why is this important in today's society? Why should we care? Well, for one, as you can see here, by this chart, as employees go into their prime working years, the prevalence of workplace depression actually rises significantly. As you can see here, from 1839, it starts going up, but then from 40 to 59, it gets way higher with an average of 9.8%. So then also this stimulus packet article by the British Journal of Cancer, although it wasn't originally about depression in the workplace, it does have a part in it that mentions that epidemiological research suggests that working long hours has a detrimental effect on health. And down here it says, as well as a high prevalence of anxiety, depression, sleeping difficulties, and accidental injuries at work. And then according to the US National Health Interview data from 2010, actually 19% of working adults worked 48 hours or more a week, and over 7% worked over 60 hours or more. So then also, this is continued on in the stimulus article by Derek Thompson, A World Without Work. And he actually states that between 1950 and 2012, annual hours worked per worker fell significantly throughout Europe, by about 40% in Germany and the Netherlands, but by only 10% in the United States. And then he goes on to continue and say, richer college-educated Americans are actually working more than they did 30 years ago, particularly when you count the time they're working and answering emails at home. And as you can see here, those working 10 hours a day or more and reporting insufficient sleep, in a study done by Akinor Nakata, she found that they had an astounding 97% higher chance of getting workplace depression than people who were reporting sufficient sleep and were working 8 to 6 hours a day. And then you can see here from the Gallup Wellbeing Index that they do well-being indexes once a year. And from this one, you can see that the percent of depression diagnosis at any time in lifetime for all US workers was about 12%, then full-time was about 11%, and part-time was about 16.5%. And that's just the diagnosed ones. But you can see the percent actually being treated for depression is about half of that. So then why is workplace depression an important issue? We've seen that it's prevalent, that it happens, but why is it important? Well, for one, there is a huge economic impact of this. Depression costs the entire US economy over $43.7 billion annually. That's more than AIDS or heart disease. And as you can see from this chart, 25% of this comes from direct costs from inpatient and outpatient care. 28% comes from reduced productivity, which we'll talk about soon. 17% from mortality, and 27% from absenteeism. Now, there's also huge costs to employers. Employers bear the brunt of these costs. And as you can see from here, these costs are only going up as the years increase. As you can see that from 1990 to 2000, there was a 7.4% increase in the total billions of dollars spent on depression in the workplace. So then now we have absenteeism. Absenteeism is one of the ways that depressed workers end up costing employers even more. Absenteeism is the practice of staying away from work without good reason, which is actually very common when someone suffers from depression. This results in lost production for the company, as shown in this chart. So as you can see here, from the full-time workers with depression diagnosis, estimated missed work days of 8.7, and then there's part-time workers with 13.7. Now, additional missed work days per year compared to those without depression was over 4.3 days for full-time workers and 5 days for part-time workers. Now, if you include the estimated number of U.S. workers and you look at the billions of dollars in incremental absenteeism, well, it's not much per person. When you add all of these people who have workplace depression together, it ends up being billions of dollars. And then there's presenteeism. Presenteeism is the state of being present.
Aaron Cal, please come to the front office when the bell rings. Aaron Cal, please come to the front office when the bell rings.
Is being present at work but being out of it in such a way that the employee is unproductive. This accounts for 63%, as you can see from this chart, of the economic cost and burden of depression to the workplace. And then, as you can see here, depression is so much worse than any other disease in the workplace. This is including hypertension, chronic pain, cancer, allergies, anxiety, GERD, back or neck pain, arthritis, obesity. But depression, as you can see here, costs way more in presenteeism loss than any of the other ones combined. Solutions for treating workplace depression. So for one, educating employers and employees is an impressive way to reduce the impact of workplace depression. This could be just putting up posters or educating all management positions, as you can see from some of these posters here. Okay, another way is to allow for paid holidays and annual leave. And as you can see here, the U.S. is the only economically advanced country in the world without required vacation time. As you can see over here with the United States at 0, whereas other ones have upwards of 30 days of vacation time. Workplace outreach screenings or programs are another good way. Just having the person come in and do a screening for depressed employees can help very much. As you can see here, the workplace program helped depressed employees way more than employees that didn't get help. Paying for depression treatment was an idea I got from the Annals of Family Medicine. They proposed that this could be beneficial to invest in, although originally very expensive. It would help eliminate the fear of health insurance not covering depressed employees' health insurance. Addressing the negative stigma of depression, again, just putting up signs, things like that. An Employee Assistant Program, or an EAP. This is a program that assists employees with any personal problems that may negatively impact their performance in the workplace. So large companies, 97% of large companies actually have EAPs. Yeah,
Staff, this is a reminder that if you would like to receive levy information, we need your personal email address. There is a sheet up here in the front to sign up. Thank you.
Extremely effective, but employees need to be made aware that they are available in order for it to be useful. So the Working Time Directive is something that the U.S. government could eventually put in place to protect workers' health. And as you can see, it allows a paid annual leave of at least 6 weeks, minimum 11-hour rest period, and other things to help secure employees' mental health. So implications. For one, we have educating the workplace, putting up posters, things like this. The signs could be easily ignored or torn down, so this isn't that effective of a solution. Paid annual holidays and annual leave. This would cost the employer, so many employers would be reluctant to use this solution. Workplace outreach, screening, or programs. These programs may not identify all at-risk employees, but they take away the uncomfortable feelings of employers from getting involved with their employees' mental health. Paying for depression treatment. Yet again, this is an expensive solution for the employer originally, but it does pay off in the long run. Addressing the negative stigma of depression. Again, just hanging posters around the office, letting employees know that it isn't a bad thing to have depression. An employee assistance program. So this saves $3 to $10 for every $1 invested, so it's extremely effective, but the cost of introducing the AAP at first may be expensive, causing employers to be reluctant to try it. And finally, the working time directive. So such a drastic change in policy is definitely going to be met with reluctance in Congress and probably a lot of outcry from the American people, but it's a policy that really needs to be put in place to ensure the mental health of depressed workers everywhere.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you speak to the validity and reliability of the sources you used, and how do you know? And then which sources didn't necessarily work for you?
Well, I had a lot of government sources, like from the CDC and places like that. A lot of studies done by different researchers. And I really thought that they were very valid and credible because they were from government sources like that, sources that need a lot of proof before they can be published.
Okay, thank you. What additional questions emerged from your research, and why do you think that these are important?
I was thinking a lot about more government measures that could be included. I ended up settling on just the working time directive, but I thought if I could include more things like, should the government be involved in employees' mental health? Should they be doing something about it? Or is it up to the employer? That was something I really thought about including, but as you can see, I already had a lot in there, so I just stuck with including the working time directive.
Okay, thank you.